For most of us, being in the dark is not a large part of our waking hours. In fact, the only time we're really in the dark is when we're waiting for a show to start, or even end, so that the lights can come back on. But what if I told you that there was no show? What if this darkness was your life? While this might seem like a complete nightmare to some of you, or even a really bad joke to others, the truth is that there are millions of people who live like this worldwide. Oh, look, here are the lights. Looks like there is a show after all. Hi, I'm Sanja Malpani from St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, and I'd like to tell you a little bit more about my city. While Mumbai is home to over 20 million people, a whopping 60% of its population lives in just a mere 8% of its total land area. So how is it that 12 million people live? Well, families of up to 10 can be found living in tight windowless shelters, which in clusters are known as slums. Funnily enough, for the longest time, my only window into this alternate universe which existed in my very own city were limited to images from movies like Slumdog Millionaire. But one day, my college assigned me to teach at a school which was right in the middle of one of the biggest slums in the city. The children I taught there were bright, curious, and full of life, and I had a really great time teaching them. But the school had this one policy though, which really bothered me. We were just not allowed to switch the lights on until 7 p.m. every day. And I could see that the children were having trouble reading. It was then that I found out that the school was on a really tight budget and could just not afford the additional electricity costs. At this time, I actually started to look around me as I made my way through the slum every day. I realized that this problem was not localized to just the school, but the darkness was everywhere. Even though the path that I was walking on was brightly illuminated by the sun, the houses themselves were essentially dark. This was new to me because my entire life I had viewed light as a right, not as a necessity. But I could see that to them, it was clearly a privilege. Women would cook and clean in darkness, and children would just stay out of their houses the entire day. Because to them, spending money on electricity during the daytime was seen as a frivolous expenditure. This saddened me, and I was sure that there was an answer out there. I looked into solar lights, gravity lights, and other such solutions. But they had only two things in common. They were either far too expensive initially, or they were just not available. So, it was then that a friend of mine actually showed me Alfredo Moser's unique system of lighting his factory during a power cut in Brazil. The method was nothing short of genius. It was simple, it was easy to implement, and the materials were not only cheap, but also locally available. A sustainable idea in its truest sense. We like to call it the bottle light, and it is exactly that. An old recycled plastic bottle filled with water and just a little bit of bleach to keep the water clean. The bottle is then placed so that half the bottle is outside the roof and the other half is inside the house. So when the sun's rays finally hit the top of the bottle, they undergo refraction inside the water, and inside the house, you get light equivalent to a 55-watt bulb. This is the house before the bottle, and this is the very same house after. All through the power of simple refraction, pure, unadulterated physics, something even Walter White would be proud of. So, the bottle light was actually well received in most communities. I mean, of course, we initially had a hard time trying to convince people Because when you go up to someone and you tell them that you're going to drill a hole in their roof, stick a bottle there, and that they'd get a 55-watt bulb from that, the idea sounds ridiculous to me even now, despite having installed over 100 bottles. But it quickly caught on, and soon we were installing bottles and holding workshops on how to make them in Mumbai and beyond. In fact, in the small town of Nagpur, we held a workshop in which all sections of society participated. Watching elite women and truck drivers sit together in the very same circle, laughing as they glued bottles together, something that would have not happened in that kind of society otherwise, was a unique experience. And just last month, we received news from Nagpur that the residents themselves had installed their very first bottle. This was nothing short of revolutionary for us. So what has the impact of our project been? Well, in just a few short months, a small group of college students had installed over 100 bottles in 9 slums across Mumbai. When we went back to these areas, we found that the bottle light led to an average saving of 10% on their annual incomes. Women could now cook and clean in comfort. And as for the kids, well, they could now stay home and finish their homework. They might not have been too happy about that. So, everyone gets really inspired when you watch a thought-provoking movie or hear a really great speech or even a TED Talk. I mean, you feel great and pumped and ready to rock the world with your revolutionary ideas and be a change maker. But honestly, how long does that feeling really last? I mean, 5 minutes later and you're already switching channels. Or life has caught up with you and you've forgotten all thoughts of that change. And this doesn't make you a bad person. No, not at all. In fact, it makes you completely normal. I know I've definitely been there. But once I hung on to that feeling, once I saw one of my own projects come to life and change the life of so many others, I know that I'm never gonna let that feeling go again. And neither should you.